The aviation industry is the latest victim of the country's economic downturn. I'm Linda Akibi, and you're welcome to the Gavel. Nigerian airlines are struggling to stay afloat, and the situation has become dire in the face of the ongoing recession in the country. Aero Contractors has announced the suspension of its scheduled services. Aero Contractors has been struggling to stay afloat for a while now, and the company says this business decision, resulting from the current economic situation in the country, had forced some other airlines to either suspend operations or pull out from Nigeria. The Senate Committee on Aviation invited airline operators in the country and aviation regulators for an emergency meeting to discuss the troubling situation in the country's aviation sector.
Nigeria's aviation industry might no longer be as lucrative as it used to be unless special intervention funds by the federal government are pumped into the sector to save the industry from an imminent collapse. This is the demand of airline operators who are gathered for an emergency interactive session with the Senate Committee on Aviation at the National Assembly. The Chief Executive Officer of Arik Airlines, Mr. Charles Ndulue, who spoke on behalf of the airline operators, expresses concern over the challenges which airlines are contending with in the present economic downturn in the country.
Economic indicators that have made business more difficult at this time. So that is what is now manifesting in the ability of the airlines to continue to operate. I think there are many problems, so many of them. But if you really look at them critically, you will see that it's possible to narrow down to 3 or 4 issues that are really driving some other problems. Because at the end of the day, you find that businesses, we are operating in an industry that has very little margin. There hasn't been a bailout that is targeted at salvaging the airlines or addressing the financing problems of the airlines. And I think that's what the committee could assist us to look at and see if this is still possible. We had extensive discussions on that last time, and the CBN agreed that some portion of that bailout fund, which was for power and aviation, is still unutilized. What it's waiting for, why it has not been fully utilized, we're not in a position to know.
The Director General of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Mukhtar Usman, assures the committee that steps to remedy the situation would be taken.
Some of the issues that we have itemized here, the foreign exchange issue, which distinguished us quite got it right, that it needs both the legislature, the executive, and everybody to come together and work towards getting this foreign exchange issue out of the way, and availability of foreign exchange to the airlines, availability of fuel also to the airlines.
In response, the committee chairman, Senator Adamalero, says the executive must act fast to save the industry from collapse.
The attention of Nigerians for a while now has been on the persistent problems arising from the process of preparing and passing the 2016 budget. Nigerians would not forget in a hurry the drama that trailed the 2016 budget after President Buhari presented it to the National Assembly, where almost immediately afterwards there were reports that the budget was missing, then found, then switched. Now, as if that was not bad enough, the chairman of the Senate and House Appropriation Committees said the 2016 budget was filled with irregularities and padded. To further worsen an already problematic situation, when the National Assembly eventually passed the 2016 budget, the former chairman of the House Appropriations Committee is now accusing the House leadership of padding the 2016 budget and abuse of office. While anti-corruption agencies are looking into these allegations, some Nigerians are asking for a reform of the budgeting process in the Executive and the National Assembly. Now, we had a chat with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Senator Ita Enang, who talks about reforming the budgeting process.
We used to have problem in the National Assembly in budgeting. And in 2003, we introduced a provision. In 2003, under the speakership of Masari, who was the speaker then, I chaired the Rules and Business, I chaired the Rules and Business Committee, and I chaired the Committee on the Review of the Standing Orders of the House. Now, the Standing Orders of the House did not make provision for the details of the budget to be brought to the floor. And so, whenever we pass the budget, the chairman of Appropriation Committee of the Senate and House will just go and do the details and then attach it and then forward to the president for assent. At the point, Mr. President, President Obasanjo withheld assent that he wanted to see, but I think it didn't go through once or twice. Now, our committee included and the House approved that before the Appropriation Act is passed, details of the appropriation must be seen and laid on the table along so that it will be reflected in the votes and proceedings of the floor, and it will be taken as passed. On page 5 of the paper I presented, I quoted in extenso the provision of Order 12, Rule 19.8 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, and that provision says, the clauses of an appropriation bill or the supplementary appropriation bill shall stand postponed until after the consideration of any schedule to such a bill. This is where it stopped before 2003. In 2003, when I chaired the Rules Review Committee, we added this proviso, provided that before the passage of the appropriation bill, the details of the budget, compendium, and schedule shall be presented on the floor of the House along with the appropriation bill. This is the provision which we introduced in 2003. It was repeated. I chaired the committee again in 2007. It was repeated in 2011. This provision is still there, and in the 2016,
and this
is still
was
there.
Adopted in the House.
It was adopted, and it is still there in the current standing orders of the House of Representatives. It is still there. Now, what this means is that there is provision in the standing orders which, if adhered to, it will solve the problem. Because as of today, I want to say that there is a legal question as to if and whether the appropriation bill passed and assented to is coet. At that lecture at the NBA section on legislative practice, I submitted that the appropriation bills passed by the National Assembly has been inchoate. Inchoate in the sense of the fact that, one, what you have passed is just what each ministry, department, or agency should spend. That is the ceiling. Because that is always what is reflected in the votes and proceedings. The details of what should be done, it should be done by each ministry, how much you are to spend on Calabar to Road, how much you are to spend on the Kano-Numan Road, how much you are to spend on Benin Ore Road, how much you are to spend on Ibadan Lagos Road, and on how much you are to spend, for instance, on the Port Harcourt Enugu dual carriageway, is not reflected in the votes and proceedings. And so it is passed on honor in anticipation, and it is only tidied up and put into the details by the chairman of the two committees of the Senate and House of Representatives. This is not starting now. It has been the practice for the past 16 years when I was in the National Assembly.